The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Welcome back to the Nova Society, a space where dialogue deepens understanding and civic responsibility comes to life. I'm Dr. Mark Bound, joined by our regular panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon. Together, we'll unpack the stories that matter most, exploring the headlines, the history, and the big ideas shaping today's conversations. Let's dive in and hear what the panel has for us today.
So now we have a question from Troy, who writes to us from Pine Valley, California. And Troy writes, ICE in airports? As if they weren't bad enough out in the open. This just sounds like a disaster looking for a place to happen. I never thought I'd be defending the TSA, as they can be some real asshats, but here we are. So I know DHS is still operating on limited funding as Republicans and Democrats argue over funding, and ICE in particular. So I guess ICE is partially funded and TSA isn't funded at all? Why hasn't someone suggested moving some of that money to TSA? I guess the real argument about DHS funding has gotten lost in all the distractions. What are the Democrats actually asking for? Are the Republicans really that opposed to their requests, or is this a Trump thing? Finally, if you have the time, I'd like to hear your thoughts on Trump's tweet following Robert Mueller's death. I know if anyone had tweeted that after the death of Charlie Kirk, the right would have lost their minds. Thank you, Troy, for all your questions. I think that that what Trump said was absolutely inexcusable about Robert Mueller's death. To me, it just is another indicator of Trump's really being white trash. I know that he has money, but really, as a human being, Trump is, I think, lower than burrowing rats in the ground. Someone used the expression to me long ago when I was growing up, lower than a snake's belly. To me, the office of the president, that's the role. It doesn't matter, or it shouldn't matter, what Trump's personal feelings are. It's the office of the president making the statement. And Trump doesn't seem to have any connection or understanding of the role. That was simply a horrible, horrible comment, and it shows his amorality and his unfitness for what he is doing. And if Trump cannot make a gracious, courteous, and appropriate statement about the death of an individual, then it demonstrates, when you try to scale up those thinking and decision making, you can see why we are in the situation that we're in globally.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
if you scale up the pettiness, and if you scale up the sense of grievance, and everybody is against him, and what Scott Bissett said, by the way, even worse than what Trump said, is we all have to have sympathy for what the Trump family went through at the hands of Robert Mueller. Just sad. Disgusting.
Okay. Well, the only thing I'm going to say about this one here is, and yes, Troy, you're right. It was a disgusting statement. And if we listen to Vice President J.D. Vance's statements after Charlie Kirk was killed, he says, if you're dancing in the streets over this, that is not free speech, and that should be punished. Now, I'll say this. The death of Charlie Kirk was a tragedy. The fact is that we should never settle political differences with any kind of violence. However, regardless of your age, and regardless of the reason for your demise, it does not change the person you were in life. Robert Mueller was a Marine. He served his country. He reformed the FBI. He did more for this country than Trump and his cronies all combined have ever done, and it was a disgusting thing to say. It was an absolutely disgusting thing to say. And if we're going to say that J.D. Vance was correct back when he made those statements about Charlie Kirk when he died, then this goes even beyond that. And in fact, J.D. Vance said, you should lose your job if you're dancing in the streets over the fact that Charlie Kirk was killed. Now, I'm not sure I agree with that, but at this point in time, I'm beginning to see the point. Yeah, I mean, I'm beginning to see the point. And yeah, the Bassett or whoever it was that was on and said, "Oh, well, we got to feel sorry for Trump." I'm sorry. Really? What a snowflake. Anyway, all right. So that's it for it was a disgusting statement, and we should all be embarrassed. And let me say this, it did not go unnoticed for the rest of the world. The Germans talked about it, the French talked about it. Even the Republicans talked about it, how it was totally inappropriate. All right. So the TSA, oh boy. What what do we got?
Well, first of all, Project 2025 from the get-go said we need to do away with the TSA. This should no longer be a government function. This should be something that is privatized by the airport, and we don't need a TSA anymore. And this seems to be a step in that direction. Second, the ICE is funded through the big, beautiful bill that they passed in reconciliation without Democratic help in either the House or the Senate. and so ICE is funded, and they decided to put ICE in the airports, even though they don't. At a time when, by the way, when air travel is probably as unsafe as it's ever been, and the threat of terrorism is real, and we don't have TSA safeguarding us when we fly, which is crazy. Trump could, of course, if he wanted to, shift funding, which he always does whenever he wants to, from ICE to the TSA and simply fund TSA. And he won't do that because he wants it gone. And so I think we need to deal with that as reality. Project 2025, which he swore he didn't know anything about, but it has been a playbook for him, says that TSA has to be gone, privatized, and this is a step in the right direction for that to happen. And ICE in the airports is, it's funny. I remember when I was a kid, we went to France, and for the first time in my life, coming out of the airport, I saw guards with machine guns and strapped with pistols. They'd never seen that in the United States. Walking around the airport. And I thought to myself, wow, when I was a little kid, I was like, oh, that's the coolest thing. Look at those guns, And we're going to have that here, and it's going to be normalized that we have armed guards virtually everywhere. And whatever it is that they're doing, whatever they're supposed to do, whatever they're not trained to do, whatever they are trained to do, that's a big part of it, is just normalizing the presence of ICE among us all the time. Get used to it. It's not going away.
Over.
As I understand it, I don't know if it was the Senate, Congress wanted to go ahead and fund the TSA. They were making a deal among themselves and to fund the TSA separately from the rest of ICE. The Democrats and Republicans were willing to do this bipartisan, and Trump said no. He said, "Don't I forbid you to negotiate with the the left liberals and they're this and they're that and they're the other thing, and you can't negotiate with them." And that was the end of that.
And the fact is part of your question, Troy, is what are the Democrats actually asking for? The Democrats are asking for them to rein in, what basically happened in Minnesota. Rein in ICE. Take off the masks. Make sure you're identifiable. Make sure that your body cameras are on. Just basic things that, let's face it, basic law enforcement. And if you're asking about the Republicans, and John Kennedy of, I think, Louisiana, wouldn't agree with him on much of anything actually. He basically said, yeah, we had a deal. Trump didn't like it. So yeah, this is all on Trump. I mean, when you've got John Kennedy, who is he's pretty stalwart conservative, when he says, "Yeah, we actually came up with a deal to be able to open up DHS, no problems there," and Trump basically nixed it. So why did he nix it? Good question. Is it because he wants to put his secret police force, ICE, out there in more areas? And I totally agree with you, Troy. Yes, TSA agents could be asshats. I've never, I've never had a problem with TSA ever before. But the fact is that yeah, they really do think that they are somebody, that they have a lot of authority that really they don't have. But ICE is just going to make it worse. Here's people that aren't even trained. In fact, the border czar was on saying, came right out and said in an interview, they're not trained for this. They are not trained for this. And so, you're right. They were a disaster out in the open, out in the wild, as we will call it. Just imagine now you get them into airports. And I don't think TSA agents are going to appreciate this. You're going to see those guys go home and say, to hell with this stuff, because basically ICE is being scabs. They're being scabs. They'll get paid. They're getting paid whatever they're getting paid. And the TSA agents are sitting there going, what the hell? And in fact, there was an article in, I think it was CNN that that the TSA agents are basically saying the ICE agents are just standing around doing nothing, getting paid, and we're doing all the work. I don't know. I don't think I'd be on top of that one.
No. And the I saw one, I think it was from San Francisco, where two where two ICE agents who were not wearing masks, big beefy guys, had a woman. They all looked Latino, and the woman looked Latina, and she had her little girl with her. They had the woman on the floor. She was weeping, and they were arresting her, and people around were filming, and saying, you have no right to do this. What is your badge number, sir? And this is illegal, and so on and so forth. So of course, ICE is now, they're going to be arresting people within airports and down. I don't know where this was in something I saw on a program, but it was showing a TikTok video, and I don't have TikTok, but this was a sheriff's deputy, apparently screaming at passengers to get in line and stay in line. And it might have been on Mark Thompson. I think it was on Mark Thompson's. He was interviewing. He was speaking with David K. Johnston. I think it was loaded from last night. The deputy was screaming and shouting at people. So this is simply, as you say, this is going to escalate, and it's going to make traveling even worse and be a nightmare. And I mean, Homan put this together. 24 hours notice, and this is just going to be fine. Again, it shows the same structural issues that we've seen throughout this time around with Trump, and also probably the first time around, although there were adults to stop some of the problem, some of the impulsivity, at least the first time around, but no thinking ahead, no following through, no planning, no critical analysis, no experts, no anything. So flying is going to be even more dangerous than, as you say, than it already has been under Sean Duffy. And with all the cuts also to air traffic control and personnel.
Well, I will be able to report on this probably in 2 weeks, because Linda's traveling to Queens, going up to LaGuardia. So we'll see how that. So if you want, donate to the possibility of bail money. That'll be necessary, because she's from Chicago. She probably won't take it very well if they bother her. So yeah, it is. It's going to make a mess. In fact, if you go to CNN.com, in fact, there's actually three sites you can go to. CNN.com is one I've got up right now. Basically, has a tracker of how long the wait is at the major airports, and it is up to 3 hours.
At one
So
point, it was over 5 for
I
one of the
mean,
major airports. I don't know which one it was. Um, I'm sorry, I don't remember which one it was, but at one point it was up to 5.
Yeah, I thought it was
yeah,
Atlanta, maybe, that you're thinking of.
yeah, it could be
I'm not
because yeah,
sure.
Atlanta's. If you've never been in Atlanta airport, it is. I mean, first of all, it's huge. It
Yeah.
is probably the busiest airport in the United States. In fact, I think it is the busiest airport in the United States, and it's a beautiful airport. It really is. You have to take a train to get around in it. Sometimes those lines, even at the best of days, the TSA lines can be quite long. So we'll see. We'll see how that all works out.
Another thing that this is going back, I don't remember when Congress made this decision, but they voted down, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the system. It's an onboard system in an airplane that tracks. It's like it's I don't know. It's not well, it might be a transponder. It alerts the pilot when another airplane is at the same height, and when a collision is likely, and the pilots are trained to fly in the direction the automatic traffic collision avoidance system, whatever it's called, tells them. It'll tell one, regardless of what air traffic control says. So it'll tell one pilot to ascend and one pilot to descend. And you have to listen to this onboard system. And Congress voted to not supply the funding to require this system in I think all American made craft, and this might have been after the collision at Reagan National between the helicopter and the airplane, because something having those types of software capacities on board would prevent something like that from happening. And there was also no transponder on the fire engine that collided with Air Canada, nor should any air traffic controller ever be managing both ground emergency or ground traffic and incoming flights or outgoing flights.
Yeah. Well, we do have, and of course, this is probably everybody knows this by now. The Democrat Emily Gregory for the House seat in the state House seat in Florida, which includes Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Defeated the Trump-supported Republican by 3 points.
Yay!
So Donald Trump is represented in his county, where Mar-a-Lago is, by a Democrat. Oh, and by the way, he voted by mail, even though he was in Florida at the time. So hypocrisy, thy name is Republicans and Trumpy Trump. Oh, and by the way, let's not forget the Epstein files. All right?
Yes, absolutely, the Epstein files. So did we answer all?
I think we got it all. I think
all Troy's questions.
But I could give a little breaking news to Scott, who's got his New York Mets sweatshirt on. The Mets are preseason power rankings. They're ranked third.
Oh.
Well, unfortunately, they play in the same conference as the number one, right? Which has got to be the Dodgers.
Dodgers, and then Blue Jays. Yep.
Yeah.
Dodgers and then
No
Blue
wonder
Jays.
Scott looks gloomy. Well, Scott, you said you're not sleeping.
Hey, the Knicks are doing good, so Scott should be kind of happy.
I am happy, and
I mean, my Rangers suck.
I drafted my fantasy baseball team yesterday, and I think it looks pretty good. Got some good players there, so things are looking up. I have plenty of distractions, which is the only thing that'll.
In my college March Madness bracket pool, I'm still in it.
Wow.
I actually picked Connecticut to win it all.
So did I.
And all of those senators down here that picked Florida are now out because Florida lost. So yeah, I mean, there's little things for us to take our mind off of all the crap that we have to put our mind to. So
I've got my paper.
It does feel at times like whistling past the graveyard, but
it does.
Away.
It does. All right.
All righty then. See you next week.
Absolutely. All right. Let me shut this up.
Take care.
Take care, guys. And that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We want to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing team, Apple Podcasts, the largest source of podcast and music online, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your destination for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. And most importantly, we want to thank you, our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society could not be possible. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing on the platform of your choice. It's easy, it's free, and helps our channel grow. For questions or comments, you can reach us at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershworth, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power of society is knowledge. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again next time.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening!